When my daughter-in-law's hand shot across the dinner table and she said, "Give me the house keys, me. This place is ours now," I felt my entire world tilt on its axis. The crystal wine glasses my late husband Robert had bought for our 30th anniversary sat between us, catching the candlelight. My son Michael sat frozen beside her, his eyes on his plate. And in that moment, I knew everything I'd built, everything I'd sacrificed, was about to be tested in ways I never imagined. But let me take you back to where this all started, because the story you need to hear isn't just about that dinner. It's about family, loyalty, and what happens when the people you love most think you're too old, too tired, and too naive to fight back. My name is Mee Thornton, and I'm 72 years old. This is the story of how I lost my family and then took back my life. You know, they say you can feel trouble coming the way you can smell rain before a storm. Looking back now, I should have paid attention to that feeling. Narrator, let me paint you a picture of my life before everything changed. I lived peacefully, in a 4-bedroom colonial in Maple Ridge, Connecticut. Robert and I bought this house in 1978 for $47,000. Can you imagine today it's worth close to $890,000? Robert passed 11 years ago, God rest his soul, and I've maintained this home by myself ever since. Every Saturday morning I'd tend to my rose garden. Robert planted the first bushes for me when Michael was born 43 years ago now. Those roses have seen birthdays, graduations, my husband's funeral. They've seen everything. The house smells like lemon polish and the lavender sachets I keep in the linen closets. 3 floors, hardwood throughout. A kitchen I renovated 5 years ago with marble countertops and those soft, close cabinets. My neighbors Dorothy and Frank have lived next door for 30 years. We have coffee every Thursday morning. Internal thought, I was content, lonely sometimes, yes, but content. My son Michael is my only child. He's 43, works in pharmaceutical sales, makes good money. He married Jessica 5 years ago. I remember because it was a June wedding and my roses were in full bloom. I was so happy for him. Jessica was, different from what I expected, polished, always dressed like she was heading to a business meeting. Sharp features, sharper ambition. She worked in real estate commercial properties. She'd always specify, as if residential wasn't prestigious enough. But she was my son's choice, and I loved her because he loved her. Internal thought, or at least I tried to. Narrator, the first small crack appeared about 6 months after they married. They'd come for Sunday dinner. I made my pot roast, the one Michael had loved since he was a boy. And as I was serving dessert, Jessica looked around my dining room with this appraising expression. Jessica, me, have you ever thought about downsizing? I mean, this house is awfully big for one person. Me, oh, I manage just fine. Besides, this is my home. Jessica, laughing lightly, of course. I just meant, well, the maintenance alone must be exhausting at your age. Those 3 words hung in the air like smoke. Michael, Jess, Mom's been taking care of this place for decades. Jessica, I'm just thinking of her welfare, honey. Narrator, I smiled and changed the subject, but that night I lay awake in the dark, staring at the ceiling. At your age, I was 67 then. I still drove, still gardened, still hosted book club once a month. When had I become old? But I pushed it away. Family is family, after all. You forgive little comments. You give grace, internal thought. That was my first mistake. Over the next year, the comments continued. Little observations about my big, empty house and how difficult it must be to maintain. Jessica would run her finger along my mantelpiece, checking for dust. She'd open my refrigerator without asking, commenting on how I didn't need to keep so much food for just one person. Michael said nothing. My strong, athletic son, who'd played varsity football, who'd once defended me against a rude waiter. He stayed silent while his wife cataloged my home's features like a real estate assessor. Then came the Wednesday afternoon that changed everything. Narrator, it was October 14th. I remember because it was exactly 1 week before my 72nd birthday. The leaves were that brilliant amber color, and I'd spent the morning raking the front yard. I'd just come inside and was making myself tea when I heard a car in the driveway. Michael and Jessica, unexpected. I opened the door, and Jessica swept past me without even a hello. Michael trailing behind with this expression I couldn't read. Guilt, resignation, me, well, this is a lovely surprise. I just put the kettle on. Let me, Jessica, we need to talk, me. Sit down, narrator. Something in her tone stopped me cold. This wasn't a request. We moved to the living room, and they sat on the sofa. My sofa, the blue velvet one Robert and I had picked out together, and Jessica pulled out a folder. A legal folder. Jessica, me, Michael, and I have been discussing your situation, and we think it's time to make some changes. Me, my situation, Jessica. You're living alone in a house far too large for your needs. The property taxes alone are $18,000 a year. The maintenance, the utilities, the risk of you falling down those stairs, me. I'm perfectly capable, Jessica. Talking over me, we've found a wonderful senior community in Danbury. 1 bedroom, all on 1 floor, activities, medical staff on site. You'd be much safer. Narrator, my hands went cold. I looked at Michael. Me, Michael, you agree with this. Michael, not meeting my eyes, Mom. We're just worried about you. The house is a lot. Maybe it's time to simplify. Jessica, we've actually already put a deposit down on the apartment. You can move in next month. Narrator, move in next month, as if it were already decided, as if this house, my home, my life, were already theirs to dispose of. Me, and what happens to my home? Narrator, Jessica smiled then. I'll never forget that smile. It was like watching a cat that's finally cornered a mouse. Jessica, Michael and I will take over the property. We'll cover the expenses, of course. Eventually, when we have children, they'll need the space. It just makes sense, me. You do want to help your family, don't you? Narrator, you do want to help your family. The manipulation was so naked, so bold, I almost couldn't breathe. I felt my heart hammering against my ribs. The room seemed to pulse with my pulse. Michael still wouldn't look at me. Me, this is my home. Robert and I built our life here. Jessica, Robert is gone, me, and you're not getting any younger. What if something happens to you? What if you fall and no one finds you for days? We're thinking of your safety. Me, I didn't ask you to think of my safety. I'm fine. Jessica, voice hardening are you though, because from where I'm sitting, you're a stubborn old woman clinging to a house you can't afford and don't need. Narrator, the silence after those words was deafening. I looked at my son, my baby, the boy I'd raised alone after Robert died, and waited for him to defend me. He didn't, me. I think you both should leave. Jessica, me, don't be dramatic, me. Standing up, I said leave. Now, narrator, they left, but as Jessica walked out, she turned back with that cold smile. Jessica, think about it, me. Really think. You're going to need our help eventually. Better to accept it gracefully now than be forced later. Narrator, the door closed. I stood in my living room, surrounded by 44 years of memories, and I wept. Internal thought, how had it come to this? How had my own son looked at me like I was an obstacle to remove? That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through my house, touching the walls, remembering the pencil marks on the kitchen door frame where we'd measured Michael's height every birthday. The crack in the bathroom tile from when 10-year-old Michael had dropped a shampoo bottle, the window seat where I'd read him stories every night. This wasn't just property. This was my life, and they wanted to take it. Narrator, the next morning, Friday, I called Michael. He didn't answer. I called again at noon. Nothing. I texted, We need to talk. His response came 3 hours later. Give it some thought, Mom. Jessica's right. It's for the best. Jessica's right. That's when I started paying attention. Really paying attention. I thought back over the past 5 years, the comments about my age, the way Jessica would accidentally mention how much my house would sell for, the time she'd asked so casually if I had a will and who it named, the time Michael had asked for my lawyer's contact information just in case. Internal thought, how long had they been planning this, but I didn't know the worst was yet to come. Narrator, that Thursday, almost a week after their visit, I had coffee with Dorothy, as usual. She was quieter than normal, stirring her cup without drinking, glancing at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle. Dorothy, me, honey, I need to ask you something, and I want you to be honest with me. Me, of course. What is it, Dorothy, are you? Are you selling your house, narrator? The coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. Me, what, no. Why would you think that, Dorothy? Because last Tuesday, I saw Jessica in your driveway with a man in a suit. They were taking pictures of the house, measuring the front yard. She saw me watching and waved like nothing was strange about it. Narrator, my blood ran cold. Me, she was here with a contractor. Dorothy, I assumed you knew. Me, what's going on? Narrator, I told her everything. The meeting, the demands, the senior community they'd already chosen for me. Dorothy's face hardened with every word. Dorothy, that conniving little she caught herself, me, you need to protect yourself. These people are planning to take your home whether you agree or not. Me, but how? It's my house, my name on the deed. Dorothy, unless they're planning to have you declared incompetent, or trick you into signing it over. Frank's sister went through this with her daughter. They said she was too confused to manage her affairs and got power of attorney. Narrator, my hands started shaking. I set down the coffee cup before I dropped it. Internal thought, they wouldn't. Would they? But even as I thought it, I knew, yes, they would. Narrator, I didn't have to wait long to find out. That Saturday, Michael called. Michael, hey, Mom, Jess and I would like to take you to dinner tonight. To talk things through properly. Me, Michael, I'm not giving up my house, Michael. Just dinner, Mom. Please, let's not let this tear the family apart. Narrator, let's not let this tear the family apart. As if I were the one doing the tearing, but I agreed. Maybe foolishly, I still hoped my son would choose me over his wife's ambitions. We'd raised him with values, with loyalty. Surely that meant something. Internal thought. I was still so naive. They picked me up at 6. Jessica had chosen Marcello's, an upscale Italian place where Robert had taken me for anniversaries. The irony wasn't lost on me. We ordered, made small talk, and then, between the appetizer and the main course, Jessica leaned forward with that same predatory smile. Jessica, me, we've been thinking. Instead of fighting about this, why don't we make it official and easy? We'd like you to sign the house over to Michael now while you're healthy and clear-headed. That way there's no estate tax issues, no probate complications later. It just simplifies everything. Me, you want me to give you my house, Jessica. Sign it over to your son, yes. You'll still live there, of course, for as long as you're able. But legally, it would be his. Ours. Michael, it makes sense, Mom. This way you don't have to worry about the financial burden, and eventually me. Eventually you'll put me in that apartment in Danbury, and I'll have no say in the matter because I won't own my own home anymore. Narrator, Jessica's smile tightened. Jessica, that's a very cynical way of looking at family trying to help you. Me, is it? Because from where I'm sitting, this looks like theft dressed up as concern. Narrator, Michael flinched. But Jessica's eyes went hard as diamonds. Jessica, fine, let's drop the pretense. You're 72 years old, me. You're living alone in a house worth nearly $1 million while Michael and I are crammed into a 2-bedroom condo, waiting for you to die so we can inherit something we should have access to. Now, you're being selfish. Narrator, the word hung in the air like a slap. Selfish for wanting to keep my own home. Me, Michael, are you going to let her speak to me this way? Narrator, my son looked at his plate. He actually looked at his plate instead of at me. Michael, quietly, she's not wrong, Mom. The house is just sitting there. We could really use it. Narrator, something broke inside me then. Some final tether of hope. Jessica, here's what's going to happen. You're going to sign these papers. She pulled documents from her purse. She'd brought them to dinner, transferring ownership to Michael. Or we're going to file for conservatorship. We'll tell the court you're declining mentally, that you can't manage your finances, that you're a danger to yourself. Me, that's a lie. Jessica, is it? You're an elderly woman living alone. You've been acting strangely, according to your loving son. Paranoid, confused, perhaps early dementia. Who do you think the court will believe? A concerned son and his successful real estate agent wife, or a 72-year-old woman who can't let go of the past? Narrator, my breath caught. She'd thought this through, every angle. This wasn't a spontaneous demand. This was a calculated plan. And my son sat beside her, silent, complicit. Jessica, sign the papers, me. Make this easy, or we'll make it very, very difficult. Narrator, she slid the papers across the white tablecloth. A pen rolled after them. I looked at those papers. I looked at my son, who still wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at Jessica's triumphant face, and then I did something that surprised even me. I reached into my purse and pulled out an envelope. Me, you want papers signed. I have something for you too. Narrator, Jessica's confidence faltered for just a second. She glanced at Michael, then back at me. Jessica, what is that? Me, open it and see. Narrator, she took the envelope, pulled out the papers inside, and I watched, with a satisfaction I'm not ashamed to admit, as every drop of color drained from her face. Her hand started trembling. The papers slipped from her fingers onto the table. Michael picked them up, started reading. His eyes went wide. Michael, Mom, what is this? Me, that is a recording transcript of last Wednesday, when Jessica brought a real estate appraiser to my house without my knowledge or permission. And of this dinner conversation tonight, yes, I've been recording this entire time. It's legal in Connecticut, by the way. 1. Party consent state. Narrator, Jessica's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. Me, continuing the second page, is a letter from my attorney, officially notifying you that any attempt to claim I'm mentally incompetent will be met with medical evaluations from 3 independent doctors I saw this week. All confirm I'm of completely sound mind, sharp as a tack, one said. The third page is a restraining order, ready to be filed if you come near my property without invitation again. And the fourth page, I paused, letting the moment breathe. The fourth page is a new will as of yesterday, in which I've removed Michael as beneficiary and named the Connecticut Historical Society as the recipient of my estate, including the house. Narrator, the silence at that table was profound. Around us, other diners continued their meals, their normal Friday night conversations, completely unaware that at our table a war had just ended. Michael, voice cracking, Mom, you can't me, I can. I did. You made your choice, Michael. You chose her schemes over your own mother. You sat there while she called me selfish for wanting to keep my own home. You were willing to have me declared incompetent, to lie to a court, to steal my life out from under me. So yes, I can, and I have. Narrator, something shifted in Michael's face then, like he was waking up from a long sleep. He turned to Jessica. Michael, you said she'd agree. You said she'd see reason, that she'd want to help family. You never said anything about conservatorship or Jessica. Oh, grow up, Michael. She was never going to just hand it over. We needed a strategy. Michael, a strategy. You wanted me to lie to a court about my own mother. Jessica, for U.S. For our future, that house is worth, Michael. I don't care what it's worth. His voice rose, drawing stares. That's my mother. She raised me in that house. My father died in that house, and you wanted me to steal it from her. Narrator. Tears were streaming down Michael's face now. Real tears. He looked at me with such anguish. Michael, Mom, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what I was thinking. She kept saying it was for the best, that you'd be happier in a smaller place, that we'd be taking care of you, and I stopped thinking for myself. Jessica. Michael, shut up, Michael. No. He stood up. I'm done. Mom, I'm so sorry. I'll do whatever it takes to make this right. Narrator. He walked out of the restaurant, just left Jessica sitting there with her mouth hanging open. She turned to me, and for the first time, I saw actual fear in her eyes. Jessica, you've poisoned him against me. Me? No, dear. I just showed him who you really are. The rest was his choice. Narrator, I stood up, placed 2 20s on the table for my untouched meal, and walked out with my head high. But I didn't know then that this was only the beginning of the story. Narrator, over the next week, I heard nothing from Michael or Jessica. Dorothy checked in daily, and I'd never been more grateful for a friend, but the silence from my son was deafening. Then, 9 days after the dinner, my phone rang at 11:47 p.m. Michael, me, hello, Michael, voice rough, like he'd been crying. Mom. I need to tell you something. Me, I'm listening. Michael, Jessica's been. I found papers in her office. She's been planning this for over 2 years, since before we even got married. She has spreadsheets, Mom. Spreadsheets with your house's value, projected appreciation, plans for renovations after you moved out. There are emails to contractors getting quotes, to a lawyer asking about expedited conservatorship processes. His voice broke. She even had a calendar marking your birthday each year with a note about your age and average life expectancy. She married me to get your house. Narrator. I sat down slowly on my bed, the phone pressed to my ear. Me. Oh, Michael, I've been so stupid, so blind. I'm leaving her, Mom. I've already moved into a hotel. Filed for separation today. Me, you don't have to do that for me, Michael. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me because I need to be able to look at myself in the mirror. And because, he took a shaky breath, because I need to figure out who I am without her whispering in my ear. Narrator, we talked for 2 hours that night. I won't share all of it. Some conversations are too private, too raw. But by the end, something had shifted. The son I'd raised, the boy with a conscience and a heart, was finding his way back. But Jessica wasn't done. Narrator, 2 weeks later, I received a certified letter, a lawsuit. Jessica was suing me for grandparents' rights, claiming that by excluding Michael from my will, I was denying future grandchildren their rightful inheritance. It was frivolous, of course. I didn't even have grandchildren, but it was designed to cost me money, stress, time. Revenge dressed as litigation. My lawyer, Patricia Chen, laughed when she read it. Patricia, me, this won't go anywhere. But it tells us everything we need to know about her character. Let me handle this, narrator, and handle it she did. Patricia filed a countersuit for harassment and attempted fraud. She subpoenaed Jessica's records. All those emails, spreadsheets, and calendar notations Michael had found. She built a case so airtight that Jessica's own lawyer advised her to drop everything and walk away. But the final blow came from somewhere I didn't expect. Michael testified. My son stood in a conference room and told the truth. All of it, the manipulation, the plans, the lies he'd been told. He submitted the documents he'd found as evidence. He corroborated everything. He chose truth over his marriage. Narrator, the case was dismissed with prejudice. The judge, a woman in her 60s named Helena Rodriguez, actually addressed Jessica directly. Judge Rodriguez, Mrs. Thornton, I've been on this bench for 19 years, and I've seen many forms of elder abuse. Financial exploitation of aging parents is one of the most insidious. You're fortunate that Mrs. Me Thornton had the clarity and courage to protect herself, because what you attempted is not just morally reprehensible, it's criminal. I'm ordering you to pay Mrs. Thornton's legal fees in full, $47,000, and to stay no less than 500 feet from her property at all times. If you violate this order, you'll face charges. Do you understand, Jessica? Barely audible, yes, Your Honor. Narrator, I watched her walk out of that courtroom, and I felt, not triumph exactly, something quieter. Like justice settling into place where chaos had been. Michael was waiting in the hallway. Narrator, we went to a small cafe near the courthouse. Ordered coffee we didn't drink, and finally really talked. Michael, I don't expect you to forgive me. Me, I'm your mother. I already have. Michael, I don't deserve it. Me, probably not. I smiled gently, but love isn't about deserving, Michael. It's about choosing every day to see the person underneath the mistakes. You made terrible choices. You hurt me deeply, but you also found your way back. You told the truth when it cost you everything. That takes courage, Michael. The divorce is final next month. I'm starting over. New apartment, therapy, trying to figure out who I am. Me, good. That's very good. Narrator, he looked at me with those eyes, the same eyes that used to look up at me when he was 5 and had fallen and scraped his knee. Michael, can I come home, not to stay, just to visit, to work in the garden with you again like we used to? Narrator, internal thought. This was the moment, the choice to extend grace or withhold it, to close the door or leave it open. Me, Saturday mornings. 9 o'clock, bring coffee and work gloves. Narrator, he smiled then, genuine and tearful and grateful, and I saw my son clearly for the first time in years. Narrator, it's April now, 6 months since that dinner at Marcello's. My roses are blooming early this year. The pink ones Robert planted are absolutely spectacular. Michael comes every Saturday. We work in the garden, talking about everything and nothing. Sometimes about Jessica, sometimes about his therapy, sometimes just about baseball. Last week, he brought a woman named Sarah, a teacher he met at a friend's barbecue. She admired my roses and asked their names. I liked her immediately. I've revised my will again. Michael is back in it, but with conditions. Trust structures, oversight, protections. My lawyer made sure that even if Michael wanted to, he couldn't simply sell the house. It'll be his one day, but on terms that protect both of us. Dorothy still comes for coffee every Thursday. She calls herself my official lookout and watches the property like a hawk. No real estate agents have returned, and me, I'm still here in my house, in my home, 70, 2 years old and sharp as a tack, according to 3 independent doctors. Narrator, you know, people talk about elder abuse like it's only physical, nursing homes neglecting patients, caretakers stealing medication money. And those things are real and terrible. But sometimes the abuse is quieter, more sophisticated. Sometimes it's your own family looking at you and seeing not a person, but an asset. Not a mother, but an obstacle. Not someone with rights and dignity, but someone to be managed, manipulated, moved aside. And the truly insidious part, they convince themselves they're helping you, that they're doing you a favor, that you're too old, too confused, too stubborn to know what's best for yourself. I almost lost everything because I wanted to believe the best in people I loved. I almost gave in because fighting back felt harsh, ungracious, unfamiliar. But here's what I learned. Grace doesn't mean letting people rob you. Forgiveness doesn't mean accepting abuse. And loving your family doesn't mean sacrificing your dignity. You can extend grace and protect yourself. You can forgive and set boundaries. You can love someone and refuse to be their victim. Narrator, if you're listening to this and you recognize yourself in my story, if someone is pressuring you to sign over your house, your savings, your autonomy, please hear me clearly. You are not too old to fight back. You are not selfish for protecting what's yours. You are not cruel for setting boundaries. And you are not alone. Get a lawyer. Document everything. Tell friends you trust. Get medical evaluations proving your competence. Record conversations if your state allows it. Fight. Your life, your home, your choices, they matter. They matter at 70, at 80, at 90. They matter until your very last breath. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Narrator: this morning, Michael and I planted a new rose bush. A yellow one this time. He asked what we should name it, and I thought for a moment. Resilience, I said. We'll call it resilience. He smiled and patted the soil around its roots. Perfect. And it is perfect. Not because everything's fixed, Michael and I still have healing to do. Trust to rebuild, years of work ahead. Not because I'm not still hurt sometimes, or because the last year hasn't aged me in ways that have nothing to do with time. It's perfect because I'm still here, in my home, on my terms, with my dignity intact. That envelope I handed Jessica at dinner, it didn't just contain legal documents. It contained something much more powerful. It contained my refusal to disappear. My refusal to be diminished. My refusal to go quietly into someone else's plans for my life. And that, my friends, made all the difference. My name is Me Thornton. I'm 72 years old, and I'm not going anywhere. Narrator: thank you for listening to my story. I hope it helps someone out there who needs to hear it. Remember, your life is yours. Protect it fiercely, love it deeply, and never, ever let anyone convince you that you're too old to fight for what matters. Until next time, this is me reminding you that family is supposed to lift you up, not take you down.